Tyson. Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. So, you have this nice construction plan, these nice drawings, especially when you're doing remodels, and then you start tearing open the walls and you realize it's not framed like I thought it was. And there's this rod I didn't see there before, and so you get punched in the face and you have to kind of, improvise.
Welcome to the Fine Homebuilding podcast, coming to you live from the International Builder Show in Las Vegas. I'm your host, Matt Milham. I'm joined today by design editor Kylie Jacques.
Hello.
Producer Jeff Rose behind me. We got the CEO inventor of Warmboard, Terry Alsberg here.
Hello.
And we've got two students from my alma mater, SUNY Delhi. We've got Chris Wadeson,
Hey.
my former teammate, and Garrett Miller.
Hello.
How's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
Good. So Garrett, this is your first time at the show, right?
Yep.
And what are you guys doing here? You're not here just for the show, right?
We are part of the NAHB student competition, the associate. So there's 5 of us on the team. You guys were on that as well.
Yeah. So it's the international, what is it? It's the residential construction management competition. Yep. And so what do you guys have to do for that?
We have to draw a complete set of drawings, estimate and schedule. I was the drafter for it. And then we had one of my teammates helped me as like my right-hand man. Whenever I needed something, he was there, helping me with that. And then we had the 2 estimators, which one was getting takeoffs while the other one was getting prices. And then we had the scheduler.
So it's a lot of work. Basically, it's a semester-long project.
Yes.
It's a volunteer thing. You do it on top of your studies.
Yep.
And what are you learning in school while all this is going on? What semester are you? Actually, are you first year or second year?
I'm second year.
Okay, so you're already into the finish and what? You doing cabinet making or remodeling?
So there's 3 paths in second year. I did the remodeling and cabinet making. Eventually, my plan is to have my own business, and then I'd love to have my hobby would be to have my own shop, kind of go in there and do stuff, or even use that to benefit my business.
What are the other 2 paths?
Remodeling and
masonry, right?
Masonry.
Yeah.
And I'm
straight up cabinet making is another option.
Okay.
They had one that was straight cabinet making. But they actually kind of got rid of that because there wasn't as many people going that path. Everyone was either choosing remodeling, masonry, remodeling, cabinet making, and there might have been 4 or 5 that chose cabinet making. So it was really hard to have a class just those.
Yeah. Do you guys learn about in-floor type heating systems like Terry's got? You want to talk about your what you do, Terry, and what you make?
Yeah, my company is Warmboard. We make radiant floor heating systems. We've been around since about 1998 in the market. Done about 30 million square feet of radiant, and up until about a year ago, we were basically in the plywood business. Warmboard's a piece of plywood with a piece of aluminum on top and some channels that you put tubes in that carry hot water, blah, blah, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of people know Warmboard because we've been around for so long. And we recently announced at the last IBS show that I was here with you guys, the launch of the comfort system. Now, that was pre-launch. We didn't actually have it in the marketplace. It was a little bit of what we call in Silicon Valley vaporware because, we've been R&D'ing it for about 6 years. We've had beta test sites running, but we were not fully launch mode just yet. And we launched officially in October. And so now what Warmboard does is we provide soup to nuts, everything you need for a radiant system, including the engineering, heat loss, mechanical design, all the mechanical equipment, boiler, pumps, manifold controllers, blah, blah. The whole kit. That's what we do now.
Yeah. And what you have 2 main products, right? Like a new build, new construction type product, like a thick plywood, and then a remodel one?
Yeah, historically, we've been, like I say, when we were just in the panel business, we make a 4x8 sheet of tongue and groove plywood that's 1.1 thick, which is structural subfloor, which you nail directly to your joist. And it comes with a pattern of channels in the top surface and aluminum that's stamped to match the channels and is bonded to the plywood, and that's called Warmboard S. And then about 6-7 years ago, we were getting more and more call for a remodel product, so we came out with Warmboard R, which is somewhat thinner. It's about 3/4 of an inch thick. It's a 2x4 sheet. It's intended to go as an overlay on top of the existing subfloor, so it does nicely in remodels.
Okay.
And that's been our business up until about October of this year when we launched the comfort system.
Okay.
And now we're a complete system provider.
Yeah. Do they teach you guys about that kind of stuff in school?
Yeah, so, and I think, Garrett, you're taking this class this semester, but we've got a MEP class, a semester-long MEP class, and they pretty much download you on everything mechanical, electrical, plumbing, basically give you a good ground to build off, whether you're going to go into the trades as a builder or a construction manager. So either way, you kind of have that background, and that's where that would come up.
Yeah.
Some a product like that, radiant flooring. So.
And so, what are you doing now? You went through the same 2-year program that Garrett went through and that I went through, and then you went on to do more things.
Yeah. So so I did. Delhi offers a pretty cool 2-on-2, or for some people, depending on the workload you take, it's a 2-on 2.5 year. So the first year I did residential construction, which is a lot of hands-on. I know you went through that, Matt. That's what Garrett's in right now. And then once you graduate from there, you can go on to the management side of things, where they dig a little bit more into, like I said, you'll do MEP, do a lot more with scheduling and estimating and the softwares that go with that. And then you have codes and you get a lot into law. So it sets you up as you can go into the field as a field engineer or construction manager or superintendent assistant kind of deal. So
or editor.
Yeah.
And
that's and then that's
There's always that option.
Apparently, you don't even need all that to be a editor.
Yeah,
I didn't do that.
Track to that. But so that's where I'm at, and they do. Right now, I'm in my last semester, which is a full semester long internship, and then I'll walk in May. And
where are you doing that?
So I'm doing that with a company in Northeast Pennsylvania called Clemlety Construction. They're a residential custom home builder. And the last 2 years, I did the commercial side of things. I was doing a lot of school capital projects, working as a project coordinator, and I decided, I learned through my hands-on work at Delhi and then doing work on the side that I just want to be in residential. So.
Not building schools.
Yeah, exactly. Well, even just renovating them. But
yeah,
it's very rewarding being a residential, especially custom home builder, setting up someone with the house of their dreams that they'll live in, hopefully forever. So
yeah,
and this company's been a great fit for me so far. So hopefully everything works out and I can stick around after internship.
Yeah,
that's the plan.
And I just want to note that you are probably more qualified than anybody else who's gone through the Delhi program to be doing that, because Chris is the only one that I know who's won the residential construction management competition.
Yeah, so
we were on the same team, but we got 4th, I think, that year.
And then I followed up the year after that and came back with a whole new team, four other guys accompanying me, and
yep.
How many teams were there in yesterday's competition?
I believe there was like 16 or 17.
And how did you guys place?
They don't know yet.
Oh, they don't know yet.
Yeah,
okay. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, so the year
Fingers
I did it
crossed.
the year me and Matt did it, we placed 4th. That was my first year of school. My second year of school, we came back and we placed 1st. So.
Yep. I was holding them back.
But yeah.
Yep.
What did you do when you were on it? Were you estimating?
Told me what to do.
Chris was like the right-hand man.
Yeah.
Like I was basically, a lot of what I was doing was just trying to get him ready to take over the next year, because I had done it once before. We got 3rd my first time, so we had semi-high hopes that we would do better than we did, but you never know.
Yeah.
I think I probably screwed up in the presentation pretty hard, so it's hard to say.
You get a lot of hope that you go from 3rd to 2nd to 1st. And
yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't know if we got 2nd or 1st.
Yeah.
Did you feel good about what happened yesterday?
We actually did really good in our presentation. It was
good.
we were up till like 2:30. Keep going over and over again. We started and it was like 20 minutes for a presentation. We only have 10 minutes to present. So then we had to kind of figure out how we were going to do this, how fast we were going to talk.
Edit it down.
Yeah. So then we finally got it down to where it was, or to where under 10 minutes. And it didn't help because we had a 1 minute and 45-minute walkthrough at the end.
Okay.
So we had to even slim it down even more.
Get to the good
we did
stuff
really
when you
good.
got to cut it all down.
They were impressed, I think.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. You said that you took 1 semester of MEP. I assume that's mechanical, electrical, and plumbing.
Yep.
And how much did they teach you about heating in that? What did they teach you about heating?
So they teach us, the different heating systems, all about heat loss gains, and there's other classes as well, like building science classes we have that kind of capitalize on that. But mostly codes and, basic electrical theory, like I said, heating systems, plumbing, sizing plumbing systems, and code for plumbing systems, stuff like that. So.
Electrical theory. Can somebody inform me what that would entail?
How electrons move,
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I find that interesting because when I went to architecture school, it's a 5-year curriculum back in my day. 6 years these days, but back in my day it was a 5-year thing. And I took 1 semester on mechanical. And famous architect Philip Johnson said, at the end of the day, architecture is shelter. Everything else is details. So it's nice to have beautiful elevations and nice materials and form and structure and ergonomics and all that other cool stuff. But we build houses because it's cold outside when it be warm inside. And it's amazing at how little time people spend thinking about how important the heating system is to the overall enjoyment of a house.
Yeah.
And so that's obviously where we come in. But in the International Building Code, which is about 1,000 pages thick or so approximately,
Right.
there is one 53-word paragraph on heating. That's it. That's the entire code. And yet, it's why we build houses, because, if you lived in the tropics, maybe you build a roof over your head, but you don't need walls. But we don't live in the tropics, and so building a great home involves thermal comfort.
Right.
And obviously that's what we're in. I'm just interested that they spend, and I assume it was a survey course, so they say, oh, here's some baseboard, and here's some forced air, and here's some radiant, and maybe some heat pumps and stuff like that. Is that pretty much it?
Yeah, I mean, they give us the background on all the systems, and then they actually, part of the semester is hands-on, so we'll actually go and, in our lab, and work through, wiring different fixtures and running plumbing manifolds and hooking up plumbing fixtures and all that stuff. But I mean, Delhi, they've got the separate curriculum for HVAC and electrical and plumbing. So, that's what a lot of kids go for if they're going to enter that certain trade.
They spend 2 years, specifically, they focus straightly on that. My OSHA instructor is actually the HVAC instructor at the school. And in that class, they actually, for them to pass their class, they're in their second year, they have to take apart a heating and cooling system and then rebuild the entire system. And it has to work. And if it doesn't work, then I don't know if you'll fail.
Right?
Then you got to pay for another semester of school. Yeah, it's a great system.
Well, there's two aspects of the working. There's the quantitative and there's the qualitative. So quantitative is, and this is what code says, it says you must, if they are in a climate zone where the outside temperature ever falls below 60 degrees, you must provide means to condition habitable space to 68 degrees, measured 2 feet from the floor and 3 feet from a wall. That's the entire pronouncement on heat. And so if you get the quantity of heat, you get to 68 degrees, you're done. But there's a tremendous, difference in the quality of heat. And I do remember, because this was many years ago, it was like 50 years ago I was in college, and I remember my instructor telling me that 2-pipe hot water heat was the best. He was talking about wall radiators and baseboards.
Yeah, that's what I've got in my 1950s era ranch.
Things have changed. Yeah.
And obviously radiant is another form of 2-pipe hot water heat. But what they did mention, it's known to be the most comfortable. That's about it. I think that was about 15 minutes of one class one day in a semester, and they didn't touch on it much after that. And I was just wondering if they ever deal with the benefits, the qualitative benefits of any different form of heat, why you would want forced hot air over baseboards, over heat pumps, or any of the various alternatives.
I mean, they do, we touch on comfort and obviously efficiency, diving into heat pumps and heat pumps versus regular oil-fired efficiency-wise, but
spoken like an East Coaster, we never hear of oil out on the West Coast.
As it should be.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as talking about the sort of the benefits of some of the different systems, we did get into that a little bit in my green building class. And actually, the instructor for that class, Alex Brownell, is sitting off to the side somewhere. I don't know where he wandered off to. I think he was taking some pictures. Oh, there he is. Anyway, yeah, he's over there with a bunch of the other students who were in the competition with you. But yeah, so talking about radiant floors and sort of when they make sense and what kinds of houses they make sense. Because
they always make sense.
I know that is, I'm sure the line.
Just get that on the table.
Yeah.
So given that brief introduction to the topic, what made you make a career out of it?
Well, I was a practicing architect, and I had a couple clients that desired radiant heat. And actually, before I switched to architecture, I started off in engineering physics, so I had a pretty good science background, and I came from a family of scientists. And I'd done gypcrete, which is a classic way of doing radiant heat.
Yep.
And I remember thinking, just from the physics standpoint, it says, why are we conducting heat with concrete? Concrete's a crummy conductor.
Yep.
We make frying pans out of aluminum, not concrete, for a reason. And so I was getting ready to remodel my own house, and I'm kind of a do-it-yourselfer. Somebody once told me that if I could drill my own teeth, I would. And so I decided I was going to do a one-off system that made sense to me, and aluminum made sense because I know aluminum's 380 times as conductive as gypcrete. So if the job of a radiant panel is to conduct heat, you would choose aluminum given a blank sheet of paper. And it's a long story why we use concrete. I don't want to waste the session on that. But so I ended up doing this one system for my own house. Mm-hmm. And I think I mentioned that I come from a family of scientists. My dad held like 20 patents. He looked at my drawing and says, that looks like a patentable idea.
Yeah. What did they look like in the beginning? And how were you building
Honest to God, there's another thing I got from my dad. He says, the best engineer is a lazy man. He's just trying to find an easier way to do something. Mm-hmm. So I'm a very lazy man. And so what I was going to originally do is take a router and run a routed groove up and down the existing finish. I had a Holly finish floor, mm-hmm. which is a softwood. And I thought I'd just run a router up and down in grooves and put some aluminum plates in it. But I've also been in construction a lot. I've been a framer and a cabinet maker and a lot of the stuff you guys talk about. I know that running a router up and down this long groove, I was going to hit a nail about every 3 feet.
That's what I was going to say.
and a new router bit every time.
Yep.
And so I thought, well, I wonder if I could get a CNC router to pre-route a plywood panel that had a pattern of grooves in it. I put the aluminum on that. And I literally sat down at my drafting table for about 15 minutes and sketched out this idea. And that's about 90% of what Warmboard is today. The only difference is that it was a 16-inch on-center system, and Warmboard's a 12-inch on-center system. But other than that, the pattern's exactly the same. And so, literally, I got lucky one afternoon in 15 minutes. It was not an involved process. I just got a little flash of inspiration, and that's how it ended up being it. And I never intended to make a business out of it. I told my dad, kind of put me up to the patent idea, and I filed the patent. We got it, and we licensed the patent originally to JELD-WEN. You may be familiar with them, mm-hmm. very large millwork window and door company.
Yep.
And they had the license till 2002, and then we rolled it out in 2002 as an independent company headquartered in California.
Cool. And where are they? They're in Indiana or something, aren't they? JELD-WEN?
No, JELD-WEN's in Klamath Falls, Oregon. It's their headquarters.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But they're all over the country. They're all over the world. They have plants all over the world, and
yeah, I remember going through their specs because we had to spec their windows for one of the projects.
Very good windows. I used to use them in my architectural practice a lot.
Okay.
Used to use Posey as a brand of JELD-WEN, and I don't think they call them Posey anymore. I think they call it their architectural division now or something. But they're a very good company. They were a very good partner for me, and they still remain a shareholder in our company. And Rod Wendt, the chairman of JELD-WEN, sits on our board. So we still have a connection to JELD-WEN, but not too much of one.
Okay. So what is the coolest thing you guys have seen here? Start with you, Chris.
Oh, geez. Well, we flew in yesterday. So we had the Kohler party last night, and really I haven't even got a chance to hit the surface of this place.
So you're a dead end on this.
Yeah.
What about you, Kylie?
I just spent some time over at Wellborn Cabinets, and I was really impressed with all of the different hardware mechanisms for how to operate cabinets depending on what the function is going to be.
Yeah, because there's so many different kinds of slides and stuff.
I mean, it's like the inventive or innovative minds behind making cabinets is impressive to me.
Yeah, it's the hardware that seems to be the hard part. And I mean, I see people install it all the time, and they make it look so easy, but I'm like, I still don't know that I could do that without screwing it up. Yeah. Like, I know it would close wrong.
Right. I also like seeing more and more focus on water savings in terms of fixtures and faucets, and it seems like there's a real push for that, even more so than in the past. So.
Does anybody stand out on that front?
Where was I yesterday? I want to say Moen.
Okay.
But don't quote me on that.
Okay.
Okay.
I won't.
I've seen
Jeff
so many.
already recorded it. I don't need to quote you.
Right.
How about you, man?
I'm in the same boat, I think, as Chris. We've been so busy with obligations with the team, with meetings and everything that we went to the New York State meetings with our coach. We learned a couple things. We had a little bit of time yesterday to walk. One of my teammates and I, we saw a couple Instagram famous guys that
were
fans of.
The influencers are all around.
Yep.
That was nice. Thursday is going to be really our day to kind of explore the entire. We've looked a little bit in this building. We haven't really gone to the north or south that much.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen, it is kind of overwhelming still. Even just Vegas in general is overwhelming. But coming here too, it's so big.
Good luck finding South Hall. That place escapes me.
I mean, I think this is my 5th time at the show, and every time it just like makes my head swim with the amount of stuff
insane.
that's
here. Yeah, you can't see it all.
Yeah, and it's difficult because there's a lot of stuff that's very similar to stuff that was here the previous year.
Right, so
it's
digging
like
out what's new.
Really hard to figure out sometimes what's new, and just like you really have to sort of like walk through slowly and really pay attention to what's there, because you can easily breeze by like the coolest thing.
Sure.
That is here, and I'm sure that I have 5 times already.
Yeah.
But
it's really important to have people explain their product to you, I think.
Yeah.
I get a lot more out of it than just looking and making assumptions.
But you can't talk to everybody. You got to
True.
That's the hard part too, because there's so many.
At the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, and you just don't have time to hit everything.
Yeah.
It brings to mind the old saw. They don't build them like they used to, and it's a good thing too, because we build houses so much better today, and there's so many innovative technologies around this show, where everybody's just trying to find a solution to some problem.
Yep.
You know, trying to be a lazy man.
Yeah. Build better, faster.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. Cool. Well, Jeff, are we good for time, or you want to keep going? Okay.
I think you wanted to talk a little bit about the comfort system or where it was evolving too, and I might go into that a little bit.
Yeah, I was curious because, like, especially, for that and also for your remodel system, I know, I've read anyway that you can use it on, like, walls and ceilings, and that's, like, I don't know if it's bizarre. It sounds actually pretty cool to me, but I'm curious, like, can you put it on exterior walls, or are you just putting that on interior walls?
Oh, you don't put it on exterior walls. You'd be heating the outside.
That's what I thought. I was like, what?
So, I mean, we do like to keep the power companies in business and throw lots of heat away outside of the house, but probably not really advisable. Because the R panel and the S panel have both been out for quite a bit of time, and they basically do the exact same thing. They're the same aluminum, the same tubing spacing. Thermodynamically, they perform identically. The real innovation was in the comfort system, and since we talked a year ago, I'm always amazed when I do product development, how you start following your nose down a path, and you never know where you're going to be driven to and what new discoveries you're going to find. One of the things that happened since we last talked was I was talking to my head engineer, and our thermostat was set on a 3-degree span. For those who don't know what that means, it means that if you have a thermostat set for 70 degrees, it's going to turn off the heat at 71, it's going to turn it on at 68. That's called a +1 - 2 span. And so we set our thermostat and our whole comfort system to operate on that. And he says, well, and because he's just an engineer, he doesn't know what we know, right? Because we're inside baseball here, right? We know the cool stuff. And he says, well, why don't we do a 1-degree span? And I said, but can we do that? He says, oh yeah. And I was starting to think why we don't do that. And the reason why we don't do that is because we had old-fashioned boilers or old-fashioned furnaces that were only had basically on or off, and that was it. And so if you've ever driven in a car where somebody's just on the gas and then off the gas and on the gas and off the gas, how jerky and
makes you want to vomit.
Unpleasant that is. And so you didn't want to be turning your blower on your furnace every 3 minutes and then off every 3 minutes. It's annoying enough, that noise as it is, but to have it cycling like that was a problem. So they would put the wider span in so that you'd be on or off for longer periods of time. It was less annoying. And then I realized, well, first off, we don't have that noise issue with radiant. And second of all, there's been a whole new technology in boilers called modulating boilers.
Right.
And then also boilers that don't mind short cycling. And so we happen to use a boiler that modulates 10 to 1. So it's an 80,000 or 140,000 BTU boiler, and it goes down to 8,000 or 14,000. And that meant that plus the way the heat exchangers are made, they don't mind short cycling. He says, oh, we can do definitely 1 degree. And I thought, well, that's got to be more comfortable. Because what happens so much, why people play with the thermostat so much, is you set it for 70, and then the temperature creeps down to 68, and then the little lady says, oh, turn the heat up. So you go over and you play with the thermostat, and then it goes up to 70. Now you're 70 is the low point of the span, 73 is the high point. 45 minutes later, you'll go over and over there adjusting the thermostat again to bring it down, and you play with thermostats all the time, which is why all these smart thermostats that we operated with your smartphone are developed, because people want to play with the thermostats. So I said, well, that doesn't make any sense, because we have thermostats. You don't have to play with your heat. You want it to just be the temperature you want it to be, and that's it. You set it once, and it's done. And so then we started having that kind of a thinking. Then he further said that, by the way, we have a temperature sensor inside of the thermostat that's accurate to 1/100 of a degree. I said, Well, you don't need 100th degree accuracy. Yeah. But then I started thinking about it. I realized how you can control a system. Because one of the great new energy efficiency things is nighttime reset. It was developed to save energy, so you can turn on your house at night, save a few BTUs at night while you're asleep. But I've always thought the most important thing about nighttime reset is we like to sleep in cool bedrooms and wake up to warm ones.
Yeah.
Nobody does that in the radiant business. Nobody, because they're too slow to react. If you turn your heat on at 6 a.m., it's not going to be warm by 7 when you get up. It's going to be warm by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. And so nobody would ever do that. And he says, well, what we could do is, because we can measure within 1 minute what the slope of the curve of the response, if we're returning from 65 to 70, let's say at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then if we see the slope of the curve is low, then we have this thing we call a smart reset controller that can modulate the boiler. So where we take it maybe from 100 degree supply water temperature up to 120, 130, 140, whatever you need. This is kind of like driving a car. We talked about the herky-jerky thing. But when you're driving a car smoothly, you just ease onto the gas pedal. You ease off the gas pedal. If you need to pass a car, you don't just snap your neck back. You ease it up. And so we created this control system that allows you, and it's never been possible in radiant heat before, to sleep in a cold bedroom at night and wake up to a warm bedroom in the morning. 45 minutes to go from 65 to 75, which is just never been done before. And so, because we're in the comfort business, that's why we call it the comfort system. This is not something we started off designing. We've been developing this for 6 years. I only stumbled across this about 6 months ago. We were launched in October. We redid our whole algorithm and our whole control system in about 2 months to take advantage of this. And all of a sudden, we're shocked, and everybody can't believe that you actually can get the nighttime comfort you want in a quiet, silent, bedroom, and have it smooth up to 70 degrees by the time you wake up. It's a wonderful thing.
Is there a difference in performance between wood frame or if you have that on concrete? Like, does the thermal mass of the concrete kind of either slow that rise in temperature or kind of make it so that it, or on the downside, make it hard for it to drop?
Well, Warmboard is a non-concrete system. Historically, radiant's always been in concrete because the Romans did underneath stone 2,000 years ago, and that kind of carried forward to today.
Mm-hmm. And you're talking about like a slab, right?
Yeah, so like if you're on a slab, because you can put this stuff on a slab, correct?
Yeah, we do put Warmboard. We overlay it on top of slabs, and there's no question about it. And I have that in my own house. I have one room. It's a kind of a step-down room that goes out to my garden, so I wanted to have that vertical, differentiation of the room. And that room is slower to respond than all my other rooms, because one of the things that makes this whole comfort system work is not just merely the boiler and the algorithm and the thermostat and all the other little technologies we stumbled onto, but it's the low mass, high conductivity of the aluminum. Mm-hmm. So if you have any kind of a concrete system, it's going to be inherently slow because it's a flywheel.
Right.
And we know that I think Colin Chapman, the Lotus guy, made Lotus cars.
Okay.
He says when you build a car, don't forget to add lightness. And so anything that has to move wants to be low in mass so it can accelerate or decelerate or move quickly. And so we're a low mass system. And that in combination with this control system is what makes this possible. So if you put it on top of a slab, it'll still be faster than if it was in the slab, but it's going to be slowed down a little bit. We do recommend, if you have the headroom, to put at least a little bit of insulation underneath our panels if you're putting it on a slab. So sometimes if you're short on headroom, you fasten it directly to the slab. You still get a little bit of a thermal break from the plywood that's on the bottom. But a better installation is to put down sleepers, an 1.5-inch rigid foam between it, nail your panels to that, and now you got a good thermal break between the Warmboard and the slab, and it'll behave just like it's on a joisted floor.
That sounds a lot smarter.
Have you seen that assembly?
I haven't, but it makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes if you don't have much headroom, we can even just put it on top of like a 1/2 inch of rigid foam and shoot nails like Hilti pins or things like that, or split drive anchors. We use those a lot. And there's an example of technology. When we first started doing Warmboard and you wanted to fasten to a slab, you needed red heads or PDIs, things of that nature.
Yeah.
And now split drives are out, and they're just so much faster and easier to use than regular anchors. And we're not in that business, but we use a lot of those.
Yeah. You going to use that, Chris? You going to pitch it to your boss?
Yeah, it'd be pretty handy. I'm sure anyone paying for a custom home would love the being comfortable all the time. I mean, that's what they're paying $1 million+ for. So
is that product flying off the shelves?
It's doing very, very well. It's being very well accepted because one of the reasons why is not merely how it performs, because now it's a completely integrated system. So when you come to us, you hand us your plans. We do the complete panel layout, tubing layout, manifold layout, heat loss and mechanical, electrical drawings, mechanical drawings, all done as a package. Then we pre-configure the entire system. It's all wirelessly interconnected through what's called a LoRa network. We give individual address codes to thermostats, manifold controllers, reset controllers, and all you basically do is hang a boiler on the wall, put a thermostat in a J-box, put 2 wire nuts on it, turn it on, and everything connects and works right out of the box. And people really appreciate the labor savings on that because in any radiant system, typically, historically, about half the cost has been labor. So I don't care what panel you're buying, what boiler you're buying, half of it's going to be labor. And in these days, and I'm sure you guys are very aware of it, the need for people in the trades is one of the biggest things that's hampering construction right now. And I think I read an article, I'll probably get these numbers wrong, but something like 80% of all plumbers are going to retire in the next 10 years, something like that.
Wouldn't doubt it.
And so everybody's looking for a way to get more done with less labor. That's the definition of productivity.
Yeah.
And so by prefabbing all this, pre-engineering it, pre-configuring it, pre-commissioning it all, so it's basically just plug and play, we find that, for example, when we had in one of our beta test sites, an experienced rated installer put our boiler in, and he called us at the end of the morning and says, "I'm done, is there something I missed?" He says, typically I'd spend a week putting a boiler room together, and this was done in 4 hours. Because all you had to do was basically hang it on the wall, hook up a gas connection, hook up a water connection, plug it in, do the supply and returns to the manifolds, and walked off the job before lunch. And so, and I think this is, I think if you looked around this hall here, not just my product, but I think so many products are all about labor savings right now because when you have a shrinking trades base, and it's great to see you guys are going to a college where you're learning about the trades. I'm a big fan of what's his name, Mike Rowe.
Mike Rowe, yeah.
Yeah, and he's obviously beaten the band on the fact that you can go to a 4-year college, rack up $250,000 in loans, and get a degree in medieval Spanish literature, with which you can pump Starbucks for about $12 an hour.
Yeah.
Or you can go to a junior college for a semester or 2 and become a certified welder and make $100,000.
Yeah.
And so, hopefully these economics are going to drive more and more people like you to realize that a 4-year education is something that's not actually going to earn you enough money to pay back your loans is maybe not a good idea. Maybe being in the trades is a great way to make a living.
Yeah.
I wanted to add one thing to that. Is last night we were at this event, and this gentleman I was talking to, he told me that for every 7 carpenters who retire or just say they're done, there's only one of us to replace that guy. So there's so much work and not enough guys that actually want to do it. They want all the money, but they don't want to go out and do it.
And some people just like making stuff. I'm one of those guys. I mean, before I was in architecture school, I was a framer, I was a cabinet maker, I was a hod carrier, I did masonry. And Frank Lloyd Wright once said that before you draw a house, you should lay a few bricks. And I think the idea of making stuff, I have this tremendous admiration for contractors. They go out to a bare piece of dirt, and they snap some chalk lines and put some batter boards down, and the next thing you know, they're trenching a foundation, and 6 months or a year later, there's a beautiful house that a family's going to enjoy for a century or more. And there's a lot of personal pride that comes in that, and it pays well. So let's see, great personal pride, pays well, outdoor and fresh air, sometimes it's rainy weather, but it's not a bad way to make a living.
Yeah. Well, with the labor shortage, pay is going up. I mean, are you guys, are you looking at jobs or for jobs, and what kind of?
I mean, yeah, within the last year, obviously, with graduation coming up, been looking at jobs, and I'm on an internship now, so it pays a little different. But even, Garrett and I, and multiple other kids that we go to school with, we all do side jobs. I mean, that's pretty much how I paid for college, was doing jobs on the side and working for contractors.
Are builders coming and trying to recruit you guys pretty heavily now?
Yeah, absolutely. And on both ends of it, for the 2-year program and the 4-year programs. I mean, we have big commercial companies like Turner, Whiting Turner, Chimenti. They all show up, and then we've got New York State builders, Pennsylvania State builders, residential builders that usually come to the school. A few times a semester, a year throughout the year, and actively try to recruit. The contacts that our instructors have are tremendous, really.
They come to us too,
Yeah.
and that's like the part that's just like overwhelming.
Yeah.
I'm graduating a semester. I still have a semester left. Yeah, all these guys are like trying
They
to
want you.
recruit me.
Yeah.
Part of it too is because like I went to Delhi. Like just I guess in talking with one of our professors, it's huge having that because we came here, and we see all these guys. Oh, I went to Delhi too, and then there's like that kind of connection. And like wow, like so you know what you're doing. You went to Delhi.
It's a really respected program, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should have stayed in the trades. I shouldn't have gone back into
No,
publishing.
we need you, Matt. Nope, I disagree.
I do remember when I got out and there were a bunch of kids that were leaving the 4-year program that you were in, and they had like job offers that were like, one kid was like $89,000.
Yeah.
Others, I mean,
Okay, well,
like
when you
coming
put it
right
that
out of
way.
school, and I was like, yeah, I definitely made the wrong choice.
I mean, there's you definitely work for it in multiple situations, but the pay is definitely there, and if you have the passion and the drive, you're going to succeed.
Take care of your body.
Yeah.
That's the dinger.
Yeah. That's what going the 4-year CM route gets you. It's a little bit of body savings.
Him and we were full-time students, yet we were working on weekends together, doing stuff. He had a couple jobs that I was helping with, and he helped me with one of my jobs that I needed to get done for the winter. Just like that passion, like even though we know he had school, we wanted to work.
Yeah.
And if you wanted it to work, there is work for you.
Yeah.
And it's overwhelming too, because none of us advertise or anything. It's kind of word of mouth. He has good reputation, and my reputation got us these really nice and good jobs for experience.
Yeah.
And then that just makes you succeed in the program as well. I mean, I don't know, I kind of think of it as like a sports team. You go to practice and you do like 60, 70%. You're probably not going to play, but it's, same thing with your studies. If you put 100% in, 110% in, working on the weekends, doing stuff, you're definitely going to succeed, one, at school, and two, you're going to succeed and come out with an awesome job and most likely an awesome pay too. So
because you already have that sense of experience too. With our program, the experience that we get from it is huge. But then on top of that, then you can be able to go out there and actually do this stuff yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes it gets nervous. I did a deck over the summer. I had no idea. But with the experience knowledge that I already had, I was able to do this deck. I mean, it was huge. It was around a pool. Being able to do something like that, we just did another deck. And it was something that was only supposed to be resurfacing. But then we ended up having to take the entire deck apart.
Yeah,
because
and then you should have just left it that way.
So you made the mistake
I
of
don't
pulling
love
that
decks.
thread on the sweater.
Everybody knows
didn't
that.
you?
absolutely.
It was
The
in rough
rim board was shot.
Yep.
You could almost stick your hand through it. So that turned into a bigger project than we expected.
I hear that from builders all the time. Like, you just got to rip it apart and do it. Figure it out as you go, right?
But with the background and stuff, and obviously I went to a couple of my instructors. I'm like showing them pictures.
Yeah, you're
I'm
not
like,
going at it blind.
I'm like, hey,
right.
this is what we're running into out there, and I just want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. He's like, I don't think there's any other way that I would do it. So
and that's huge too, because even though we don't have all the experience, we have those people to talk to.
Yeah,
to
mentors you can go back to get information from when you don't. Yeah.
I'm always reminded of that phrase from Mike Tyson. Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. And so you have this nice construction plan, these nice drawings, especially when you're doing remodels, and then you start tearing open the walls and you realize it's not framed like I thought it was. And there's this rod I didn't see there before, and so you get punched in the face and you have to kind of improvise. That's part of the fun of the thing. I mean, about half my work as an architect was mostly remodels and additions and things like that. I did mostly residential, and it was always fascinating to me to see what I opened up inside of a wall. I mean, you were talking about technologies. I knew how old a house was by the dimension of the studs. If I went to a really old house, they were 2x4. Then they became 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. 1 3/4, and then they went to 3 5/8 by 1 5/8, and now they're 1.5 inches. And you could almost date the house by the size of the joists in it. And then when you started framing it, you got 1 inch and 5/8 by 3 5/8. Where do you find wood to match in with that?
Right.
So that's one of those challenges.
It seems like remodeling projects are so infinitely more interesting than new builds, just in terms of.
That's one word for it.
Let's go with
I'm not
that.
doing the work,
Yeah,
but
it's
I'm
like
hearing about it.
It's like trying to put together a puzzle that has like 10 pieces from another puzzle thrown in and missing 5
I
that
think
are
that's what
supposed
makes
to
it
be there.
interesting to me. But
Yeah.
Well, I always like doing remodels too because you see so many remodels out in our neck of the woods. There's the famous Winchester Mystery House, which is, if you haven't heard of it, it has doors that go nowhere, stairways that stop at walls. It's just this weird thing. Mrs. Winchester was crazy, and she built this house for her entire life. And I'd go into houses that looked like it were, designed by her. And to me, the whole thing was, can I make this look as though it wasn't a remodel?
Yeah.
It's all straightened out, and it looks like a modern house. And so you mix and match existing materials with new modern materials. You try and clean up your floor plans. You make sure your elevations all match. And it's a real challenge to tear into a remodel and have it not look like a remodel when you're done. And it's a great, it's a puzzle, and it's rewarding when you get it right.
Cool. Terry, it's been a pleasure talking with you, and Chris and Garrett and Kylie. I really appreciate you guys taking time to hang out with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Again, this has been the Fine Home Building Podcast from Las Vegas. We'll check in again with you this afternoon. Happy building.